Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Zach here. Hope everyone's doing okay today. Thursday, January 7th. I know yesterday was a tumultuous day, and I don't know a lot of people in DC, but I did reach out to a couple people that I know there, and I'm grateful that they're okay. And obviously, the position that we're at as a country over the last summer and now into this event really shows it's really demonstrating to us that these rifts that have existed in experiences and ideologies in this country are reaching a point where we really have to address them. I was thinking about what I could do today, and so I have a couple different things that I wanted to share. One's going to be down in my comment section here, but I'm going to screen share with everybody today as well. And I want to pull up a couple of resources for everybody. Number one is the biggest problem I see are that the narratives being created are not being helpful to us to get along and to really start to try to actually fix like the problems that are existing in our country. So this is a news chart. I wanted to show everybody this. It analyzes news outlets based on a variety of factors. I'll share this link as well. And so down here, scroll through, it's going to show you the most biased and the least biased sources. So obviously some of these ones up here, I think most people would probably say they can recognize as being extremely biased and not a good source for news. The top two, the AP and I'm going to mispronounce it, Reuters. Forgive me on that one. But if we're really going to, I was thinking about what I saw on Facebook and in the news yesterday, and I didn't see a lot of people who wanted different results, right? It's no different in training. It's no different in any habit that we have in life. If we want new results, I'm going to have to approach it differently. And the foundation of that is going to be learning some principles and applying those principles on a regular basis. So in the case of all of our political disagreements, now I'm in a weird position. I'm pretty in the middle. I consider myself some form of libertarian. I was raised, in a Democrat household, and I see ideals and ideologies, I should say, let me reframe that. I see ideals and principles within both parties that are both necessary in, a free republic, and we're going to have to figure out a way to really start talking to each other based on, our value system. I think everybody values freedom. Everybody values, liberty, health, happiness, freedom, and freedom comes with freedom of choices and freedom of expression as well. And we're seeing, astronomical problems right now that both sides have, done to the other, and both sides are experiencing from the other. So I'm not going to go down a huge tangent on that, but I'm going to link it in. You're going to understand what I'm getting at here in just a second. So I watched like 5 different news channels yesterday, very briefly, about 10 minutes each. A lot of people already realize this, but these news outlets, again, I'll go back here to my least biased ones, okay? These news outlets, at the end of the day, they want what's called attention economy. And our attention economy is being sought after by Facebook, by Google, by Apple. It's the most valuable resource. For those who haven't watched The Social Dilemma, it breaks it down really well. Features a guy in that documentary named Tristan Harris, who I heard years ago on the Sam Harris podcast, and then listened to more podcasts and more presentations from him. At the end of the day, the most valuable thing these companies want is our data and our attention. So we really have to consider that with how they're being set up. And this feeds directly into the argument about where you should be consuming your news. The language, now I'm picking on CNN today intentionally because out of every channel that I was visiting yesterday, like I said, I only spent a few minutes on there because I in general don't watch news because it's designed to trigger emotional responses in people. It's designed to get you upset or make you, extremely emotional. And you combine that with advertising, and you start to get into some serious problems. The language being used on that network combined with the pictures, it just doesn't add up. Now, I'm not condoning the actions yesterday. My question is, how many people were really carrying out those actions? Was it a dozen? Was it 2 dozen? There's no there's no pursuit of trying to quantify and accurately show what's going on. Everyone's getting lumped into this category. Then they're showing you images, and the majority of people are standing around a building. Let's get right down to it. Now, I understand that there's a bunch of arguments about things would have played out differently if different racial mixes were involved. I totally get that. I'm not even going to talk about that right now because it's irrelevant for my topic that we're going to get into. It's just to establish that this network is very biased in their language and what they present and what they don't present. So, for example, here's a couple searches I did. Now, if you don't know, people were referring to Portland and the summer riots, and that's still the reality, okay? Like, this stuff is going on to this day. I can't leave this one up here, but I'll put the links down below. But it started to play a video a few minutes ago, and I didn't want to interject that over me talking. Same with Minnesota. Minnesota had a big push. They were one of the, obviously front and center of what happened in the summer with, looking at racial inequality and racial injustice. You start to search for, information that's going to be relating to that. Like, if you're going to start to defund police departments and use that ideology, we need to, look at seriously what's happening and what those results are. And CNN, there's not even a mention of it, okay? So these cities that really started to promote this ideology are experiencing really disastrous outcomes, really disastrous results. And to ignore that, when people talk about solutions, the solution that keeps coming into my mind first on a political spectrum is these major news outlets, including right here and other social media platforms. There's got to be some accountability and some lawsuits or something to start creating some resources to fix these problems, because these conflicts are being, I'm not going to say they're being caused, but they're definitely being heightened by these narratives that people are choosing to engage in. Now, this transitions to what I want to talk about today. So, I kind of bashed on CNN a little bit, but I really want to talk about this stance against meat. Right now, in the last, decade, maybe a little bit longer, there's been a rising push against meat, claiming all sorts of things. It causes cancer. There was some studies that showed that highly processed meats might be carcinogenic, but people have glommed onto that and really ran away with this plant-based diet. And to understand that, again, we're looking at narratives here. So to understand a narrative, you have to understand the beliefs behind it, and you have to understand a little bit about its history. A lot of people, I think, are under the impression that somehow the vegan diet was formulated by research and people testing different foods and making these conclusions that somehow this wins out via testing, and that's not the case whatsoever. The vegan diet is rooted first and foremost in the Seventh-day Adventist beliefs. Here's just a little passage I brought up from Forbes. Unlike today's, this is a quote from Dr. Kellogg, who started Kellogg cereals that were absolutely, he was trying to make a healthy diet, but he was feeding people things that were literally cracking their teeth. These were not things that, humans should be consuming. So basically, this is a quote on this article, though. Highly seasoned meats, stimulating sauces, and dainty tidbits, and endless variety, Kellogg wrote, irritate the nerves and react upon the sexual organs. Dr. Kellogg wrote as much about the dangers of sex and masturbation as he did about healthy living. Cereal was the bridge, the dietetic remedy to Americans' diets from leading them to sin, okay? So we see a religious belief, when we see a religious belief and ideology at the formation of this diet that's supposed to be promoting optimal human health. It's just simply not true. There's another book out there. I'm going to review it in the future, so I'm probably not going to dive into that right now too, but one of the terms he used is to reduce reproductive readiness. Now, I don't know if that person's on the same wavelength and making it like this moral issue that, having a sexual activity and, having lust is like sinful, but you can see the foundation of this is not about health. It's a moral foundation, okay? I brought up this. This is one of the few studies that has been done. This is the best one I have seen. Really the biggest argument for plant-based diets. Oh, I might have my screens backward. Uh-oh. Here. This is the article I was just trying to describe from Forbes with the passage from Dr. Kellogg. And this, there's different articles written about this. This isn't just from Forbes. Here is the study that I was referencing. It was conducted in Austria. It was one of few studies that actually looked at real carnivorous diets versus vegetarian and vegan diets. The conclusion: our study has shown that Austrian adults who consume a vegetarian diet are less healthy in terms of cancer, allergies, and mental health disorders, have a lower quality of life, and also require more medical treatment. Now, that when people talk about plant-based diets, they're always quick to point out that, they always want to use the data that backs up their point of view, that getting off of meat is going to make you healthier. It's simply not true. And the reason for this is that the majority of studies that are done, they are labeling meat eaters as anybody following the standard American diet, SAD for short. The standard American diet, yeah, it is sad. It absolutely sucks. So if somebody's eating a shit ton of processed foods and, they're consuming fast food every morning, doing any dietary change at that point is going to start to move things in the right direction. It doesn't mean that you're getting more optimal health. It just means that you are starting to take out the biggest offenders to our body that's going to break us down, cause chronic inflammation, deteriorate our body from the inside out. And the number one that I've seen argued that's probably true is, highly processed vegetable oils, which obviously fast foods and processed foods, if you look at the ingredients, there are a ton of those in there. Ironically, they're also very prolific in now these fake meats that are coming out. So understanding that there's a belief system involved first and foremost in this ideology, and now we can see that people have been trying to justify this for a very long time. I wanted to pull up this real quick. It's an abstract, but it just shows that the Seventh-day Adventist belief system. Let me show you right here. Let me look for the exact quote. Okay, subsequent meetings took place every 5 years, with the seventh taking place in Loma Linda on February 2018. These congresses have played a leading role in changing the attitudes of healthcare professionals, e.g. physicians, nutritionists, and dietitians, towards a vegetarian diet. The seventh Congress included more than 750 attendees, blah, 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 blah. So, again, my point is that what people are saying is an optimal human diet originated from a religious belief system, and it continues to be tried to validate, and they continue to try to validate it by cherry picking data that's going to support those arguments. There's absolutely nothing wrong with red meat. Now, there may be things wrong with red meat as far as the way it's raised. I'm not saying that all conventional meat raising practices should continue to be done as is. We absolutely need to get to more sustainable agriculture, sustainable meat processing, and raising. And there are a lot of great authors that talk about that, from holistic management and other methods that they're using to create the healthiest food possible while actually making the land healthier. And when you do this properly, you're actually going to get a negative net carbon impact. So people that are worried about the environment, you're actually going to be making the environment healthy if you're using pastured lands with cattle, which then can be used for a variety of agricultural practices, including other animals. It can all be done properly and in synergy with one another to raise holistically raised food. I've kind of reached the end of exactly what I want to say, and I was debating how to send this off, because I know a lot of vegetarians and I know vegans, and I'm not coming after anybody personally, okay? I don't make your diet a moral issue. To me, at the end of the day, is the diet making you healthier? Is it making you stronger? Is it making you your best? And if somebody is thriving doing plant-based diets, then that's absolutely great. When we look at what's scalable and what's going to be the best long-term, there's absolutely no cases of professional athletes that I have seen who go plant-based and end up performing better. In fact, that whole documentary, Game Changers, had they done a follow-up, the game change would have been that those people were no longer professional athletes, or they were performing at far worse levels than in the past. Somebody may change that in the future, I don't know. But there was even like long-term vegetarians like Tony Gonzalez, who was a tight end for famous tight end in football. He eventually had to go back to eating meat because his body was breaking down. So the whole point of this is just to start to look past narratives and to actually start to see what we need to do to be healthier as individuals and, healthier in society, interacting with one another. I hope it's come across that way. And if you have questions, comments, or if you don't agree with me, I'd love to hear all feedback. I will be talking about these things again in the future, especially doing a review on an amazing book that one of my mentors wrote, Rob Wolf. It's called Sacred Cow. Diana Rogers wrote, and he helped write the book. But it really talks about the sustainability factor of food and how we have to learn how to raise food sustainably. And it's not just a pro-meat argument. They talk about, problems in, meat raising as well. So it's a really good book, and we'll be doing a review of that at some point. Again, I hope everyone's doing well today, and let me know what further questions you have. I will post some links down below. If you want more resources, we will provide those as well. So sorry, a little tired. It's been a long, stressful week. I know everyone's, feeling that in different degrees. So I hope everyone makes a great day, and we will talk to you next time on the Whole Body Experience. Thanks.